Welcome in. It is fantastic to have you with us for another custom-tailored deep dive.
Really glad you could join us today.
We are jumping straight into a massive stack of source records for this one.
Oh, yeah, a huge stack.
You are probably familiar with the broad strokes of the Rendezvous with Rama archives. I mean, it's the legendary account of humanity's very first encounter with an alien artifact.
Right, the big one.
But today, our mission isn't just to, recount the timeline. The goal of this deep dive is to extract the really granular, thrilling discoveries.
The stuff that usually gets glossed over.
Exactly. We want to dissect the tense political standoffs that honestly nearly destroyed our solar system, and to really interrogate the profound philosophical questions that this whole event forced humanity to face.
We're talking about the impossible physics of the artifact itself.
Yeah.
The psychological toll it took on the explorers who actually went inside. And that ultimate chilling realization of our own insignificance.
It's a lot to cover. But to frame our starting point, we aren't actually beginning with a UFO sighting. We are beginning with rocks.
Big rocks.
Specifically, the Padua and Verona meteor strikes of 2077.
Which is the absolute essential context for everything that follows in these records. You have to start there.
Right.
Because the sheer devastation of those 2077 impacts, it forced a total paradigm shift in human planetary defense.
Before Padua and Verona, the sky was just something we casually observed.
Yeah, we just looked up and admired it. But after those strikes, the sky became a threat vector.
A literal target on our backs.
Exactly. And that is what birthed SpaceGuard.
The radar network.
Right. The automated radar and optical network designed to catalog and track, well, every single piece of cosmic debris in our solar neighborhood.
Every rock, every comet.
Because without SpaceGuard, humanity would have been entirely blind to what was coming. We would have never even seen Rama until it was too late.
Which is crazy to think about. So by the year 2130, SpaceGuard is just humming along, doing its job, when it flags an anomaly.
At first, it's just a data point on a screen.
Yeah, asteroid 31439. They calculate its trajectory and immediately realize it is moving far too fast.
Way too fast.
It's an interstellar vagabond. It's not bound to the sun's gravity at all. It's literally just passing through.
And that's when they give it the name Rama.
Right. But the initial red flags from the astronomical data are what really set this whole story in motion. If you look at the early observational reports, the first major anomaly is the light curve.
Or rather, the lack of one.
Right. The complete lack of a light curve.
Which, the absence of a light curve is one of those details that seems super minor to a layperson. But to an astrophysicist, it's an absolute klaxon siren.
Break that down for us a bit.
Sure. So an asteroid is almost always an irregularly shaped chunk of rock and ice, right? It's tumbling end over end through the void.
Like a lopsided potato.
Exactly like a potato. And as it tumbles, the sun's light hits different facets of its surface. Sometimes a wide reflective side faces Earth, and the object appears brighter.
Makes sense.
And then a few hours later, a narrow or shadowed edge faces Earth, and it dims. If you graph that brightness over time, you get a wavy line. That wavy line is a light curve.
But Rama's brightness was a completely flat line.
Completely flat.
It didn't waver. It didn't wax or wane.
Which leaves only two possibilities based on the physics we know. Either the object is not rotating at all.
Which is incredibly rare for an interstellar object.
Extremely rare. Or the second possibility, it is perfectly, flawlessly symmetrical.
Wow.
And in nature, perfect symmetry on a massive scale. It's virtually non-existent.
So this is where Dr. William Stenton comes into the record.
Yeah.
He manages to secure time on one of the massive orbital telescopes to get a better look at this thing.
He wants to figure out why the line is flat.
Right. And he finds that the flat line isn't entirely flat. There's this microscopic recurring fluctuation in the photometry.
A tiny blip.
Yeah, it turns out to be a single kilometer-wide stain or blemish on the surface of the object. And that one little blemish allows Stenton to prove that Rama is, in fact, rotating.
But the rotation speed is what breaks the math.
It completes a full day one, complete 360-degree spin every 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's really dwell on the physics of that for a moment, because it defies everything we know about celestial mechanics.
It's insane.
We are talking about an object that is 40 kilometers wide.
Just massive.
If a natural solid object of that size rotates that fast, the structural stress is unimaginable. Stenton ran the calculations and realized that at the equator of this object, the surface would be moving at over 1,000 kilometers an hour relative to its center.
1,000 kilometers an hour.
The centrifugal force would be immense.
I remember reading his initial panic in the source logs. He calculated that any loose rock, any dust, literally any object sitting on the equator of Rama would be violently flicked off into deep space.
Fired off like a bullet.
Yeah, at an acceleration of nearly 1 standard Earth gravity.
So his immediate, terrified conclusion was that they weren't looking at an asteroid at all.
Not a rock.
No. Stenton hypothesized that Rama was a chunk of a collapsed star.
Oh, right, the neutronium theory.
Yes, he thought it was made of neutronium. That's degenerate matter so incredibly dense that a single teaspoon of it would weigh as much as a mountain range.
Just unimaginably heavy.
In his mind, only the massive gravity of a collapsed star fragment could hold an object together at that rotational speed without it just flying apart from the centrifugal force.
But that theory gets debunked almost immediately, doesn't it?
It does. The orbital mechanics simply didn't support it.
Because of the planets.
Exactly. If a massive chunk of neutronium was hurtling through the solar system, its immense gravitational pull would be tugging at the orbits of everything around it. Mars would wobble. Earth's tides would shift drastically.
But the records show the planets were completely undisturbed.
Nothing changed. Rama was massive, yes, but it wasn't neutron star massive. It was too light to be a collapsed star, but spinning too fast to be a normal rock.
You have a physical impossibility.
A total paradox.
So the United Planets Committee authorizes a closer look. They have this deep space probe called SIA, which was originally bound for a completely different mission.
And they repurpose it.
Right, they launch it from the moon of Mars to intercept Rama. But because of the sheer speed Rama is traveling, the SIA probe can't stop. It can't enter orbit.
It has to be a flyby mission.
A ridiculously fast flyby. The probe is going to scream past Rama at 200,000 kilometers an hour.
It has only minutes to snap high-resolution photographs and beam them back to Earth.
And those photographs, I mean, they're the demarcation line in human history.
The visual data sent back by SITA is chilling in its banality.
Banality is a perfect word for it.
Because humanity had spent centuries dreaming of alien vessels. We imagined sleek silver saucers.
Or aggressive, bristling warships with lasers everywhere.
Right, or beautiful, organic, crystalline structures. But what the SITA probe revealed was a featureless, drab, gray cylinder.
Just a cylinder.
Perfectly flat on both ends. It looked like nothing more than an ordinary domestic water boiler, just scaled up to 50 kilometers in length.
It's so mundane that it's terrifying.
Exactly. There were no windows, no exhaust ports, no glowing engines, no communication arrays. Just a brutally functional machined cylinder plunging through the dark.
And the SITA probe also carried sensors to measure the object's minute gravitational field, right?
It did, which allowed the scientists to definitively calculate its mass.
And the mass was the final nail in the coffin of the asteroid theory.
Rama was incredibly heavy, weighing at least 10 million tons, but it was far, far too light to be a solid object of that size.
The math was undeniable at that point.
This 50-kilometer boiler was hollow.
Hollow. It is the exact moment the abstract anomaly becomes a concrete artifact.
It is a manufactured spacecraft.
And the realization triggers this frantic scramble because Rama is not slowing down.
Not at all.
It is dropping down the gravity well of the sun, and once it whips around perihelion, it will be gone forever, just back into interstellar space.
Which brings Commander Norton and the Solar Survey vessel Endeavour into the picture.
They are the only human ship positioned to even attempt an intercept.
They push their engines to the absolute limit. They burn through their fuel reserves just to match velocities with this behemoth.
And they touch down on the flat northern face of the cylinder.
The logistics of that landing are fascinating if you think about it.
Because of the spin.
Yes. You can't land on the curved side of the cylinder because, as we discussed, the surface is spinning at 1,000 kilometers an hour.
It would be like trying to land a helicopter on a buzzsaw.
That is exactly what it would be like. You have to land at the exact center of the flat end, the northern axis of rotation.
Right, the north pole of this massive spinning top. Because right at the center of the axis, the rotational velocity is practically zero.
There is no centrifugal force throwing you outward. It's essentially a zero-gravity environment right there at the hub.
So Commander Norton and his life support officer, Carl Mercer, they step out of the Endeavour for their first extravehicular activity.
They are the first human beings to set foot on an alien construct.
It gives me chills just thinking about it. They find themselves in the center of this flat, circular plane, and the metal under their boots is completely unmarked by micrometeors.
Which implies some kind of incredibly advanced defensive shielding or just impossible material strength.
Right, so they explore the central hub, and they find a pillbox structure. And recessed into the wall of this pillbox is a wheel with 6 spokes.
This specific detail, the wheel, is a profound moment of industrial archaeology.
How so?
Well, consider the timeline. We later deduced that Rama has been traveling through the hard vacuum of interstellar space for hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years.
An unfathomable amount of time.
And the very first interface humanity finds after all that time is a manual control wheel.
And when Norton pulls on it, it turns.
It hasn't vacuum welded, the extreme temperature variations haven't warped it.
The lubricants haven't frozen solid. It just rotates effortlessly.
What's truly captivating about this is the universality of the engineering. Meaning, Commander Norton doesn't need an alien translation matrix to understand what he is looking at. He deduces immediately that this is a manual backup system for an airlock.
Because any technologically advanced species would build one.
Exactly. No matter how alien their biology or their culture, they are bound by the same laws of physics that we are. If you have an automated powered door, you absolutely must have a fail-safe in case of power loss.
And if you need to manually crack a pressure seal, a lever or a wheel is simply the most mechanically efficient way to do it.
It relies on basic torque. This 6-spoked wheel bridges the cognitive gap between human engineers and alien builders in an instant. It represents a universal functional design that completely transcends species.
It's the ultimate proof of parallel evolution in engineering. So the wheel turns counterclockwise, incredibly smoothly, and it opens a clamshell door.
And Norton and Mercer move through a series of 3 of these interlocking airlock cylinders,
They are moving through the kilometer-thick, solid hull of the ship itself.
taking step after step into the unknown.
And when they finally breach the inner door, they find themselves floating in absolute pitch-black darkness.
Norton is weightless at the central axis.
He has brought high-intensity flares with him. He throws one into the void, and when it ignites, it's hard to even articulate the sensory overload of what he sees in that moment.
He is suddenly looking at the interior of a hollow cylinder, 50 kilometers long and 16 kilometers wide.
An entirely enclosed, inside-out world.
Let's talk about the sheer psychological terror of that environment.
Oh, absolutely. Because we throw around the phrase inside-out world pretty casually, but visualizing it is deeply unsettling.
It really is. If you are standing on the inner surface of the hull, your feet are pointing outward toward the stars.
And your head is pointing inward toward the empty central axis.
The human brain, which has been shaped by millions of years of terrestrial evolution, is simply not wired to process this geometry.
On Earth, the horizon curves away from you. It hides what is in the distance.
And the sky is just an empty dome above you. But inside Rama, the horizon curves upward.
It forms a massive bowl.
A bowl that extends up and completely arches over your head. If you look straight up into the sky, you don't see clouds or stars.
You see the opposite side of the world.
16 kilometers above you, hanging upside down, you can literally see the geography, the planes, the structures dangling directly over your head.
It induces a profound vertigo.
It is a violent collision between your visual input and your inner ear balance.
And the geography of this world is staggering. Wrapping completely around the middle of this cylinder is a 10-kilometer wide band of dark, frozen water.
They dub it the cylindrical sea.
It cuts the world into a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. Dotted across the landscape are these massive geometric structures that look almost like metallic crystal growths.
The crew calls them cities. They name them New York, London, Paris, Rome.
But the most intimidating feature for Norton, floating up there at the axis, are the stairs.
Because the Endeavour is docked at the central axis, but the actual landscape is 8 kilometers down on the curving hull.
So to get there, the Raymonds built 3 enormous stairways branching out from the hub. They plunged straight down the vertical face of the northern end cap to reach the plane.
Try to picture looking down a staircase that is quite literally as high as the Himalayas.
8 straight kilometers of steps.
And because of the physics of the spinning cylinder, the gravity changes as you descend.
This goes back to the centrifugal force we were talking about earlier.
Right. Inside a spinning cylinder, gravity isn't a pulling force from a massive body. It is the floor pushing up against you as it spins.
Like those spinning carnival rides that pin you to the wall.
Exactly like that. At the central axis, where Norton enters, the rotational radius is 0, so you are weightless.
But as you start climbing down those stairs, moving further from the center and closer to the outer hull, the rotational speed increases.
And the centrifugal force pins you harder to the surface. It begins as just a light tug, a tiny fraction of Earth's gravity.
But by the time you reach the bottom of the stairs and step onto the central plane,
You are experiencing about half of Earth's normal gravity.
So you are crawling down the face of a vertical saucer, starting in 0 G, slowly getting heavier and heavier, all while staring at a landscape that sweeps up and vaults entirely over your back.
It's a miracle none of the crew suffered a complete psychological breakdown right there on the stairs.
Truly. But to go back to that moment when Norton first throws the flare, there's a quote from the source material that captures the magnitude of the revelation perfectly.
Oh, I know the one.
The text says, "He was looking at the landscape of an entire world by a single flash of lightning."
I am thrilled you highlighted that specific quote. In the context of human history, that is the pivotal demarcation line.
It really is.
Because up until that exact second, every explorer from the ancient Polynesians navigating the Pacific to the European cartographers to Neil Armstrong stepping onto the lunar regolith had looked out at natural formations.
Mountains pushed up by tectonic plates.
Oceans carved by glaciation, craters smashed by meteorites, geography shaped by blind geology and the slow march of time.
But in this single flash of lightning, Commander Norton is looking at a manufactured planet.
It represents a permanent, irreversible shift in human consciousness. The universe is no longer just a chaotic collection of rocks and gas.
It is a canvas for engineering on a godlike scale.
But the eerie part of that initial discovery is that this manufactured world appears completely dead.
Yeah, it is frozen solid. The internal temperature is near absolute zero.
There is no atmosphere to speak of, just a thin, freezing vacuum.
The cities are silent. The sea is just a band of black ice. But Rama is constantly moving.
It is dropping closer and closer to our sun.
And the intensity of the solar radiation is increasing exponentially. That heat begins to slowly, inexorably penetrate the kilometer-thick armored hull.
Which brings us to the most dynamic phase of the records.
The awakening.
The physics of the environment here trigger a massive, tightly choreographed biological cascade.
It's not an accident.
No, it is an engineered resurrection.
Let's walk through that resurrection. As the temperature inside the cylinder edges above freezing, the environment starts to shift. But the cylindrical sea doesn't thaw the way a lake on Earth does.
Right, because on Earth, the sun beats down from above, melting the surface ice first, while the deeper water remains cold.
But inside Rama, the heat isn't coming from an internal sun. The heat is soaking through the outer hull of the ship itself.
So the sea thaws from the bottom up.
And the thermodynamics of this are violent.
Incredibly violent. You have a 10-kilometer-wide, deep band of ice. The bottom layer turns to liquid water and rapidly heats up, expanding.
It is trapped beneath millions of tons of solid ice above it.
So the pressure builds until the upper layers of ice catastrophically fracture. It creates incredible turbulence, geysers, and massive shifting ice flows grinding against each other.
And once the sea's entirely liquid, something bizarre happens. The water isn't a clear, pristine blue.
It turns into a thick, pea-green organic soup.
Almost overnight, this massive body of water blooms with a hyper-accelerated form of algae or phytoplankton.
And this bloom starts generating staggering amounts of oxygen and other gases, venting them straight into the vacuum.
Within days, Rama has completely replenished its internal atmosphere. It generates a breathable, albeit slightly strange-smelling sky.
Observing this rapid transformation leads Dr. Carlisle Pereira. He's an exobiologist back on Earth, reviewing the telemetry to a brilliant deduction.
He looks at the chemical composition of the sea, the rate of atmospheric generation, and the sheer scale of the environment.
And he realizes Rama is a space ark,
Operating on a rigidly closed ecology.
which was a concept that human scientists had theorized about for centuries regarding interstellar travel.
If you want to travel between the stars, and you are bound by the speed of light, the journey cannot be completed in a single lifetime.
It will take tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. You cannot carry enough compressed oxygen or freeze-dried food for that duration.
You must build a mobile world.
A rigidly closed system where every single atom is recycled. Plants convert carbon dioxide to oxygen. Organic waste is broken down to fertilize the plants.
It is a delicate, continuous loop. You essentially have to build a giant terrarium, a mini-Earth, and perfectly balance it.
Precisely. But Dr. Pereira realizes a grim truth about closed ecologies.
They are never truly perfect.
Entropy always wins. He calculates that Rama's internal systems, as vast as they are, could only maintain absolute balance for maybe 1,000, at most 10,000 years.
Before microscopic pollutants built up.
Or a subtle chemical imbalance cascaded and just ruined the biosphere.
But the astronomical data proves Rama has been coasting through deep space for at least 200,000 years.
which means Rama is a derelict. It is a tomb.
The original inhabitants, whoever the Raymans were, must have exhausted their provisions and died out long before the ship ever reached its destination.
But the machinery of the ship itself, the potential for life locked in the chemical makeup of the frozen sea, was perfectly preserved.
Waiting in deep freeze for the heat of a new sun to hit the reset button.
And as the atmosphere thickens and the world wakes up, we get one of the most thrilling and frankly reckless episodes in the entire exploration record.
The flight of Lieutenant Jimmy Pack.
It is a classic collision between human ambition and an alien reality that does not care about our rules.
Jimmy Pack is a junior officer on the Endeavour. He's highly ambitious, a bit of a maverick, and he happens to be a competitive skybike racer back on the lunar colonies.
For context, skybikes are these ultralight, human-pedaled gliders. They are designed for sport in the low gravity of the moon.
Now Jimmy, in a massive breach of military protocol, secretly dismantled his skybike, named Dragonfly, and smuggled it aboard the Endeavour.
Inside his personal luggage allowance.
Which is just an astonishing level of insubordination.
It really is. But Jimmy recognized a unique aerodynamic opportunity.
He certainly did. His logic was based entirely on the fizzing of the cylinder we discussed earlier.
At the central axis of Rama, gravity is 0. As you move toward the hull, gravity increases to half an Earth G.
But there is also a thick, newly generated atmosphere now filling the cylinder.
So Jimmy calculated that if he launched a skybike near the central axis, the air would be thick enough to provide lift.
But the gravity would be so low that a human could easily pedal a glider for hours without exhausting themselves.
He pitches this crazy idea to Commander Norton.
And Norton, surprisingly, approves it.
Not out of a desire to indulge a reckless junior officer, though.
No, out of strategic necessity.
The Endeavour is parked at the North Pole. The crew has explored the northern hemisphere, but their progress is completely blocked by the cylindrical sea.
We have no boats.
The entire southern hemisphere of Rama is inaccessible to them. Jimmy's skybike is literally the only asset they have capable of crossing the sea and reconnoitering the South Pole.
So Ginny reassembles Dragonfly and pedals this fragile wire and fabric contraption across the sky of a hollow world.
Try to imagine the view.
He is flying kilometers above the curving landscape, looking down at the dark sea, soaring over the crystalline structures of the island they call New York.
Pedaling his way all the way to the southern continent.
And the geography of the South Pole is vastly different from the North.
Very different. Instead of the 3 massive stairways, the southern end cap features a gigantic central spike sticking kilometers up into the interior void.
Surrounded by 6 smaller, equally sharp spikes. The crew refers to them as the Big Horn and the Little Horns.
As Jimmy gets close to these structures, the atmosphere around him begins to change.
The hair on his arms stands up. He feels a deep, oppressive, physical foreboding.
He is flying straight into a massive buildup of static electrical charge.
What he doesn't realize is that Rama is subtly changing its orientation in space, adjusting its approach to the sun.
And these massive spikes at the South Pole aren't buildings. They're part of the ship's propulsion or navigational system.
They are acting like giant lightning rods.
Bleeding off the unimaginable static energy generated by the ship's maneuver.
A solid sheet of fire bursts from the Big Horn, splitting into 6 blinding ribbons of lightning that stripe the smaller horns.
The sheer concussion of the thunderclap hits Dragonfly, violently snapping the fragile wings.
The glider just falls out of the sky. Jimmy miraculously survives the crash by managing a semi-controlled descent into the soft, spongy terrain of the southern continent.
But the Dragonfly is completely destroyed.
He is stranded on the far side of the sea, cut off from his crew, with limited oxygen and supplies.
And this crash forces him into a vulnerable direct contact with the newly awakened environment.
Which brings us to an incredibly controversial moment in the records, one that really demands some critical thinking about human nature.
The incident with the flower.
Yes. Jimmy is trekking across this bizarre, geometric, sterile landscape, trying to reach the edge of the sea in the hopes that Norton can somehow stage a rescue.
And he comes across something that completely shatters the aesthetic of Rama.
In a world defined by stark, functional metal, synthetic materials, and vast dead plains, he finds a single flower.
It's growing inside a protective lattice of metal rods.
It has feathery leaves and a complex array of tiny, almost crystalline tubes. It is the first and only piece of terrestrial-style flora they have seen.
And what is Jimmy's immediate reaction?
He squeezes his hand through the metal bars, snaps the flower off its stem, and stuffs it into his pack as a souvenir.
And the moment he breaks it, the remaining stem instantly violently retracts into the ground like a dying snake.
This action requires us to pause and dissect the underlying psychology. Why did he do it?
Does this represent the pure, objective curiosity of a scientist collecting a rare specimen?
Or does this highlight a darker, more destructive human impulse? The urge to possess the unknown, even if the act of possession destroys the very thing we marvel at.
It's a debate that splits readers of the archive every time. I'm curious where you, the listener, land on this.
On one hand, put yourself in Jimmy's boots. He is a marooned astronaut. He has just survived a terrifying crash.
He genuinely believes he might die on this side of the sea.
He spots the only piece of delicate organic beauty in an otherwise terrifying sterile machine world. He wants to hold on to it.
He wants to bring back proof. It is a deeply ingrained human instinct to collect, to categorize, to have a physical artifact to prove we witnessed something miraculous.
That is the generous interpretation.
The more critical view argues that his action is profoundly arrogant.
It is literally the only flower they have seen on an entire planet.
He has no idea of its function, its rarity, or its importance to the ecosystem, and his first instinct is to rip its head off.
He justifies it to himself in the logs by assuming that the Raymonds didn't plan for this flower to be there.
That it's just a freak mutation of the thaw, a weed that managed to sprout.
But that is pure anthropocentric assumption.
His action serves as a microcosm of humanity's historical relationship with nature. When we encounter something unique or beautiful, our dominant reflex is to claim ownership of it.
And often, our claiming is a fatal act.
It's a moment of destructive entitlement that contrasts sharply with the actual life that Rama is currently producing.
Because shortly after the flyer incident, Jimmy is about to have humanity's first face-to-face encounter with the active denizens of Rama.
The Beats?
After his crash, he is hiding near the wreckage of his skybike, and he sees a creature walking purposefully toward him.
It looks like a massive metallic crab.
It has multiple manipulators, a central body carapace, and it moves with mechanical precision.
Jimmy is terrified. He thinks he's about to be attacked by the alien immune system.
But the crab completely ignores him. It walks right past him, goes over to the shattered pieces of the dragonfly, uses its claws to chop the wreckage into manageable chunks.
It carries the debris to a massive vertical pit in the ground and throws it in.
It cleans up the mess and walks away.
That's a garbage truck.
A biological garbage truck. And this encounter completely upends our understanding of what life can be.
This leads to some of the most mind-bending scientific revelations in the entire record.
Later on, as the crew explores further, they encounter a variety of these creatures.
There is a triocular entity they call a spider with whip-like feelers that runs frantically around inspecting equipment and structures.
There is a giant, 9-armed starfish creature that operates in the cylindrical sea.
Eventually, one of the spiders is damaged and dies. The ship's doctor, Surgeon Commander Ernst, brings the carcass back to the Endeavour and performs a dissection.
And her findings challenge the fundamental definition of biology.
The autopsy reveals that the spider is essentially empty.
It has no mouth.
It has no lungs for respiration. It has no stomach or digestive tract.
It has no reproductive organs.
It doesn't eat, it doesn't breathe, and it cannot reproduce.
So how is it alive?
Dr. Ernst discovers that 80% of the creature's internal body cavity is filled with a honeycomb of specialized cells.
Cells that are remarkably similar to the cells in an Earth-electric eel.
The creature is not an animal. It is an organic robot. It is a biological battery.
They coined the term biological robot.
This raises a huge philosophical question. If they don't reproduce, where do they come from? How are they born?
They aren't born. They are manufactured.
During their exploration, the crew discovers a massive structure they call the Glass Temple.
Inside this temple is a forest of glowing crystal pillars.
These pillars act as a vast, three-dimensional holographic catalog. They store the genetic, structural, and chemical blueprints for every single type of bio.
When the central intelligence of Rama determines that a specific task needs to be accomplished, whether it's cleaning up the debris of a crashed skybike, inspecting the human encampment, or repairing a damaged structure, it accesses the blueprint in the Glass Temple.
It then literally manufactures the required bio on demand, assembling it from the metallo-organic chemical soup of the cylindrical sea.
The biota is given a full electrical charge. It performs its single program task, and when its battery runs out or the task is complete, it simply walks back to the sea and throws itself in.
To be dissolved and recycled back into the soup.
The implications of this are staggering. We, as humans, build our machines out of titanium, silicon, and copper to do our manual labor.
The Ramans built their machines out of flesh, chitin, and electric cells.
It is the absolute perfect marriage of biology and artificial intelligence.
It is incredibly efficient. There's zero waste.
But there is also something deeply horrifying about it.
There is no individuality, no life cycle, no consciousness, just pure, brutal, functional existence.
A creature brought into being for 10 hours just to sweep a floor and then melted down.
It forces us to confront the ethical implications of creating biological life merely as a tool. If a biological entity has no consciousness, is it still life? Does it deserve ethical consideration?
The Ramans clearly viewed biology as just another building material.
This perfectly reflects the overarching design philosophy of Rama itself. It is a machine world. Every single molecule has a designated purpose.
It is a fully functional, self-repairing, automated titan of industry.
And the realization that this kind of power is currently coasting through our solar system sparks absolute, unmitigated terror back on Earth.
Which brings us to the geopolitical, or rather interplanetary politics of the crisis.
Right. Because while Commander Norton is marveling at biological garbage trucks and inside-out waterfalls, the politicians back home are losing their minds.
We have the United Planets Committee. This is the governing body representing the various human colonies: Earth, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, and the outer moons of Jupiter and Saturn.
They are engaged in a frantic, nonstop debate about what Rama's intentions actually are.
The ambassador from Earth, Sir Robert Mackay, frames the baseline human fear response brilliantly by drawing on historical precedent.
He argues that we must look at our own history of exploration and expansion.
Look at the Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro encountering the Incan Empire.
Look at Commodore Matthew Perry sailing his heavily armed black ships into the isolated harbors of Japan in 1853.
Or the colonial expansion of Europe into Africa.
Whenever two vastly different cultures, possessing vastly different levels of technological advancement, collide, it almost invariably ends in tragedy, subjugation, or outright destruction for the less advanced culture.
And in this scenario, humanity is very, very clearly the Incas.
We are the natives with spears looking up at a steel galleon.
Precisely. We are facing a technology that isn't just centuries ahead of us. It is hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years beyond our comprehension.
The power disparity is absolute.
So the panic across the solar system is palpable. But that panic is most acute, most intense, on the planet Mercury.
The colonists there are known as the Hermians, and we need to talk about them because they are a fascinating and unique culture in this universe.
To understand their reaction, you have to understand their environment. Mercury is the most hostile place humanity has ever settled.
The daytime surface temperature can literally melt lead. The colonists live deep underground.
They are tough, highly disciplined, paranoid, and fiercely pragmatic.
They are the miners and engineers of the solar system, providing Earth and the outer planets with boundless solar energy and heavy metals.
In many ways, they feel a sense of ownership over the sun. It is their territory.
And they look at Rama dropping toward their sun, and they don't see an archaeological marvel.
They see an apex predator.
And we must acknowledge that their fear is not irrational. It is based on a very solid, chilling deduction made from the physical evidence Norton's team uncovers.
Dr. Pereira, analyzing the maps of Rama, points out a glaring geographical anomaly.
The cylindrical sea is contained between two massive cliffs.
The cliff bordering the northern plain is 50 meters high, but the cliff bordering the southern plain is 500 meters high.
10 times larger. From a purely functional design standpoint, why the extreme difference?
The Hermians solved the riddle. The 500-meter cliff is a retaining wall designed to hold back millions of tons of sloshing water.
Like when you are carrying a shallow baking pan full of water and you suddenly step forward?
The water sloshes aggressively toward the back of the pan.
Exactly. The existence of that 500-meter southern cliff proves undeniably that Rama has a propulsion system.
It is designed to withstand massive linear acceleration.
It isn't just a dead rock or a derelict falling blindly through space. It is a piloted, or at least automated vessel capable of steering.
And if it can steer, it has choices.
It could fire its engines to brake at perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, cancel its velocity, and permanently park itself in the solar system.
This is where we have to engage in some uncomfortable critical thinking. The narrative of the records clearly sets the Hermians up as the antagonists.
The paranoid hotheads who ruin the peaceful scientific mission.
They secretly construct a 1,000 megaton nuclear bomb, disguise it as a standard communications probe, launch it, and set it on an intercept course to blow Rama into shrapnel before it reaches the sun.
It feels like a villainous, xenophobic move, But we have to offer a robust defense of their logic.
The Hermian ambassador lays out a stark game theory argument to the committee.
He asks, what degree of mutual cooperation and understanding is truly possible between human beings and termites?
We ignore termites, or perhaps we study them with mild interest, right up until the moment they want to consume the wood of our homes.
Then we exterminate them without a second thought.
To the creators of Rama, humanity is the termite mound. We are insignificant.
From a pure survival of the species standpoint, if a silent, heavily armored, vastly superior alien dreadnought sails into your solar system and refuses to answer your hails,
Is it not the most rational, prudent move to destroy it while it is dormant, before it wakes up and decides it needs the resources of your planets?
it is the ultimate preemptive strike. And honestly, it forces a really uncomfortable reflection.
If this exact scenario happened tomorrow, if a 50-kilometer alien cylinder appeared inside the orbit of Mars and started heading for Earth, you have to wonder if our current governments would act any differently than the Hermians.
We launch interceptor missiles at weather balloons and drones.
Do you really believe the combined military powers of Earth wouldn't throw their entire nuclear arsenal at an approaching alien monolith just out of sheer primal terror?
It is a dark, unflinching mirror held up to the paranoia inherent in human nature.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And the emotional weight of all these realizations crashing down on humanity at once is captured in a couple of fantastic quotes from the sources.
When the true nature of Rama, its age, and its capabilities finally settle into the collective consciousness, Dr. Pereira says, we are not alone. The stars will never again be the same to us.
That is a masterclass in summarizing a paradigm shift.
That quote encapsulates such a profound, contradictory mix of triumph and mourning.
Triumph, because the greatest philosophical question in human history, are we alone in the dark, is finally answered with a definitive no.
But mourning, because that answer fundamentally shrinks us. The universe is suddenly revealed to be much older, much more complex, and much more indifferent than our most humbling religions or sciences ever dared to fear.
And speaking of science, the shock to the physicists is just as severe as the shock to the philosophers.
Because eventually, the Hermian's fear is validated. Rama does have a propulsion system, and it activates it to correct its course.
But it doesn't use chemical rockets. It doesn't expel superheated gas or ion exhaust.
It uses some kind of incomprehensible, reactionless space drive that seems to directly manipulate the fabric of gravity itself.
There is no thrust, just a sudden, silent shift in momentum.
And Sergeant Myron, sitting at the sensor console in the Endeavour, just stares at the telemetry and mutters, there goes Newton's third law.
A simple sentence that shatters 400 years of established physics.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It is the foundational bedrock of all human engineering and spaceflight.
To witness a reactionless drive is to witness magic.
It means everything humanity thought it knew about the absolute laws of physics is not just wrong, but embarrassingly incomplete.
But before the crew can fully process the collapse of classical physics, Commander Norton has a much more immediate ticking clock problem to deal with.
He receives the classified warning that the Hermian nuclear bomb is inbound.
Which brings us to a segment that I think is the absolute moral crux of the deep dive, the ultimate test of conscience.
It is a brilliant narrative crucible because it forces a massive collision between human spirituality, rigid military duty, and the untested waters of cosmic ethics.
Let's unpack the elements of this collision. To understand how Norton navigates this, we first have to look at one of his most unique crew members, Lieutenant Boris Rodrigo.
Rodrigo is not just a communications officer. He is a devout, practicing member of a religious group known as the Fifth Church of Christ Cosmonaut.
The inclusion of Rodrigo is a fascinating exploration of religion and spirituality in the face of the incomprehensible.
It shows how human belief systems adapt to survive paradigm-shifting events.
The core tenet of the Fifth Church is the belief that Jesus Christ was a visitor from space, a cosmic entity sent to guide humanity.
So when a massive alien spacecraft suddenly appears in the solar system, Rodrigo does not experience the existential dread or the paranoid xenophobia that infects the Hermians.
He integrates the alien ship seamlessly into his existing theology.
It's his psychological armor. While everyone else is terrified that the rules have changed, Rodrigo is perfectly calm because he genuinely believes he is just reading the next chapter of the script.
He views Rama not as a threat, but as a cosmic arc. He thinks it has been sent to save the righteous, or perhaps it is the literal instrument of the second judgment.
Exactly. It demonstrates the incredible elasticity of human faith. We constantly use the frameworks we already possess to make sense of the new and the terrifying.
Rodrigo's faith makes him uniquely fearless in this scenario.
And Norton needs that fearlessness. Earth Command sends Norton a top-secret, encrypted message.
They inform him of the incoming Hermian bomb. The detonation will shatter Rama, and the Endeavour is caught in the blast radius.
Earth Command's orders are clear. Evacuate your crew immediately, break orbit, and run for your lives. Leave the artifact to be destroyed.
But Norton realizes a tactical loophole. The Hermians are guiding the missile and watching the bomb's telemetry from Mercury.
But because of the vast distances involved, there is a 10-minute speed of light delay in their communications.
Norton realizes that if he sends someone out in a small, stealthy pod to intercept the bomb and literally cut the detonation wires,
the Hermians won't see it happen until 10 minutes after the fact. Far too late for them to trigger it manually.
he needs a volunteer for an incredibly dangerous, highly illegal mission. And the man who steps forward without hesitation is Boris Rodrigo.
He wants to save the Ark.
This is where the crushing psychological weight of command descends on Commander Norton. This is one of those scenarios that makes for a perfect thought experiment.
Think about it. He has to make a unilateral decision that could dictate the fate of the human species.
Does he follow the implicit safety protocols, obey Earth Command, run away, and let the Hermians destroy this alien marvel?
Doing so guarantees Earth's safety and eliminates the unknown variable.
Or does he authorize Rodrigo's sabotage, risking the wrath of the Hermian military, committing high treason, and potentially allowing a hostile alien force to survive and destroy Earth?
To make this impossible choice, Norton doesn't turn to military doctrine. He turns to history.
He is a massive scholar of Captain James Cook, the famous 18th century British explorer who charted the Pacific.
When faced with the unknown, Norton tries to imagine what his idol would do.
Which is a beautiful thematic bridge connecting Earth's age of wooden sailing ships to the age of interplanetary spaceflight.
Captain Cook, despite the complex legacy of colonialism, was known among his contemporaries for his scientific curiosity, his relative restraint, and his strict orders not to engage in unprovoked hostility with indigenous peoples.
He was an explorer, not a conqueror. He did not destroy what he did not understand.
And Norton decides to anchor himself to that specific legacy. He authorizes Rodrigo.
Rodrigo flies a tiny one-man pod out to the massive nuclear-tipped Hermian missile.
He spacewalks over to the casing, opens the access panel, and with a simple pair of wire cutters, disables a 1,000 megaton weapon.
It is such an incredibly tense, hilariously low-tech solution to an apocalyptic high-tech problem. Snip. The bomb is dead.
And when Norton justifies this staggering defiance of both Earth and Mercury, he delivers a quote that serves as the moral anchor of the entire record.
He says, "The human race has to live with its conscience. Whatever the Hermians argue, survival is not everything."
Let's truly dissect that ethical stance because it is profound. Norton is making a definitive declaration about the soul of humanity.
He is arguing that a species that destroys out of blind, preemptive fear is a species that has already lost its moral right to exist in the wider universe.
If our only imperative, our only driving force, is biological survival at any cost, even the cost of annihilating an ancient, peaceful marvel, then we become the very monsters we are afraid of.
We become the cosmic villains.
Norton risks his career, his life, and potentially his home planet to preserve an alien artifact, deciding that curiosity, restraint, and reverence for the unknown are higher virtues than mere existence.
It is a massive, terrifying gamble, let's be clear.
Yeah.
If Rama had turned out to be a hostile battleship and it wiped out the colonies,
Commander Norton would go down in history as the man who doomed the human race because he was too soft to pull the trigger.
but he accepts that immense burden of responsibility. He wagers everything on the hope that intelligence does not automatically equate to hostility.
That is true leadership.
So the bomb is disarmed. The threat of human self-destruction is averted. The Endeavour breaks away and flees to a safe distance because Rama is now hurtling dangerously, blindingly close to the sun.
The perihelion maneuver is beginning.
And this is where we get the spectacular visual finale of the records and the long-awaited answer to the central question. What does Rama actually want with us?
This finale is where the sheer, unfeeling indifference of the universe is laid completely bare.
Everyone had their theories. The Hermians were absolutely terrified. Rama would use its impossible engines to break, enter orbit, and conquer the solar system for resources.
Boris Rodrigo and the Fifth Church thought it was stopping to pick up the righteous and save them from a sinful world.
The politicians on Earth desperately hoped it might broadcast a signal share its technology, and usher in a new era of galactic communication.
But what does it actually do? It just keeps accelerating.
It plunges terrifyingly close to the sun, diving to within 500,000 kilometers of the fusing hydrogen surface.
At that proximity, the heat should instantly melt the hull into slag.
But it doesn't. Rama spins a shimmering, opaque magnetic cocoon around itself.
The astrophysics of this maneuver are breathtaking. Rama isn't just surviving the lethal heat of the sun, it is actively utilizing it.
It creates a magnetic funnel that reaches down and manipulates the sun's corona.
It is literally siphoning raw plasma, tapping the sun's unimaginable energy output at the source to recharge its internal batteries.
And perhaps even drawing in raw matter to replace the mass it lost over millions of years of interstellar travel.
It is a parasite, or rather a transient opportunist.
It is using our sun, the center of our world, the giver of all life on Earth, like a free interstellar gas station.
Precisely. And once its tanks are full and its internal systems are fully charged, it drops the magnetic cocoon.
It uses the sun's immense gravity to execute a perfect slingshot maneuver, whipping itself out of the ecliptic plane.
Hurtling out of the solar system vastly faster than it arrived. Its new trajectory is calculated, and it is aiming straight for the Greater Magellanic Cloud, a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way.
It is leaving our galactic neighborhood entirely.
And that departure leads us to the overarching big idea of this entire deep dive.
It is the absolute humbling, devastating blow to the human ego.
It totally upends the standard narrative. It makes you wonder how deep our arrogance really runs.
For centuries of science fiction and philosophical debate, humanity braced for first contact.
We imagined violent cinematic invasions where we valiantly fought off saucer fleets.
We imagined benevolent alien saviors descending from the clouds to cure our diseases and bring us advanced technology.
We imagined profound, telepathic, philosophical exchanges of art and culture.
But in all of our wildest fantasies, both utopian and apocalyptic, there was one core assumption we never questioned.
We assumed that when the aliens finally arrived, they would care about us.
Even if they wanted to obliterate us, it meant we were important enough to warrant obliteration. It meant we mattered.
But Rama gave us utter, crushing indifference.
It didn't pause its journey. It didn't broadcast a greeting. It didn't unleash a laser barrage to conquer our worlds.
It didn't even acknowledge our existence.
We sent our bravest explorers inside it. We flew gliders around its structures. We launched nuclear weapons at it. And it just brushed us off like dust on a windshield.
We are not the main characters of the universe.
We were just a muddy puddle of water by the side of the cosmic highway, and an 18-wheeler just blew past us at 100 miles an hour without the driver even glancing out the window.
It is a profound, permanent paradigm shift. It decenters humanity completely.
And while that realization is initially terrifying and humbling, if you sit with it, it is also strangely liberating.
If the universe doesn't revolve around us, it means the universe is infinitely larger, stranger, and more mysterious than our petty terrestrial concerns.
We are free to explore it, but we are no longer burdened by the illusion of our own cosmic supremacy.
Which brings us to how we can actually take these massive, sweeping philosophical concepts and apply them practically.
Because, let's be honest, you probably aren't going to be commanding a spaceship intercepting an alien monolith anytime soon.
But you absolutely will face paradigm shifts in your own real life.
When you are confronted with overwhelming new realities, maybe it's the rapid, scary advancement of artificial intelligence threatening your industry.
Or a massive, unexpected upheaval in your career path, or a sudden foundational change in your personal life. How do you choose to react?
It is incredibly easy, almost instinctual, to mirror the Hermians.
To react with immediate fear, to become defensive, to build walls, and to try and destroy, ban, or reject what we don't understand simply because it threatens our comfortable status quo.
Exactly. But we have a choice. We can choose to be like Commander Norton instead.
When the world turns inside out, we don't have to panic. We can approach the unknown with calculated, measured curiosity.
We can rely on our core values, our own internal Captain Cook, to guide our conscience when the rulebook is thrown out the window.
We can accept the humbling fact that we don't have all the answers, that we might not be the center of the story, and still bravely choose wonder over destruction.
The archives of Rama are rich with these kinds of ethical dilemmas.
As we conclude this session, I'd like to leave you with a few lingering questions to mull over, perhaps to bring to your next discussion group, or simply to ponder on your commute. We've touched on them throughout our analysis, but they bear repeating.
First, consider the burden of leadership. If you were Commander Norton, bearing the responsibility for the potential survival or annihilation of the entire human race, would you have defied orders and disabled the Hermian nuclear bomb, betting everything on alien benevolence?
Second, regarding the buyouts. If we eventually create biological life merely as tools, creatures manufactured solely for labor, with no ability to reproduce or experience joy, and recycled without thought, what are the ethical and philosophical implications of that kind of engineering?
Third, put yourself in Jimmy Pack's shoes. Was he justified in picking that unique alien flower as a scientific specimen? Or did his actions highlight a destructive human entitlement to dominate nature?
And finally, on a lighter, more personal note, if you could have smuggled one small personal item onto the Endeavor to carry into the massive, silent world of Rama, what would it be and why?
Those are fantastic threads to pull on. It really forces you to step into the spacesuit and weigh your own moral compass against the infinite.
Now, before we officially wrap up this deep dive, there's one final lingering detail from the source records that we haven't mentioned yet.
And it is a chilling one. At the very end of the archives, after Rama has successfully slingshotted away and the solar system is returning to its mundane routine, the exobiologist Dr. Carlisle Pereira wakes up from a restless, fitful sleep.
A sudden, terrifying realization has just burned its way into his conscious mind.
Yes, it is the final, haunting quote of the record, he realizes. The Ramans do everything in threes.
Think back over everything we just discussed. How did Norton get inside? Through a series of 3 interlocking airlocks.
How many massive stairways plunge down from the northern hub to the central plain? 3.
The buyouts, the spiders that scurried around inspecting the camp, they had 3 legs and 3 eyes.
The underlying architecture, the mathematics, the very design language of the Ramans is based entirely on triplets.
Which leaves us with a terrifying, provocative thought to mull over as we look up at the night sky.
If the Ramans truly do everything in threes, and this massive world-sized ship that just ignored us was merely the first to pass through our solar system.
Where and when are the other 2 coming?
Keep diving deep into the unknown. We will see you next time.